Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, where inspired women talk about the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness. We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory.
We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way. If you desire to integrate this learning practically and supportively into your life, then Soul-Driven Motherhood is your space to go deeper. Head on over to nourishingthemother.com.au or follow any of the links on our socials for Soul-Driven Motherhood.
We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we're so grateful you're here. Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I am Julie Tenner. The beautiful Bridget will be joining us very soon in the podcast, and today we have a very special guest, the divine Sallie Roberts, who is a naturopathic skin specialist and women's healing facilitator, and we'll be having a conversation today on loving your imperfect skin as part of the Body Love series. So before we dive into experience and wisdom, the emotional, the physical, and the psychological aspects of skin conditions and how they affect your sense of self, I would love to remind you to jump on to nourishingthemother.com.au, scroll on down, drop in your email address, and you join our community where we send you out an email to keep you in the loop and let you know what is happening where and when. So nourishingthemother.com.au. So beautiful, Sallie, skin specialist extraordinaire, because I'm a bit obsessed with your Instagram feed.
Really?
Yes, because the information you give on there, I'm always like, oh man, it's like super deep and punchy and powerful. And then I'm a sucker for a before and after photo. I just like love that shit so hard.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy following you on Instagram. So I would highly recommend that everybody does. But that if you yourself are struggling to please book an appointment with Sallie. But first, let's just kick it over to you. How did you come to being where you are now, skin specialist, women's healing facilitator? How did you get here?
Oh my gosh, what a story. So I guess as a child and kind of my early to mid-teens, I had what society would say was the most perfect, beautiful, glowing, porcelain skin. So growing up with that kind of skin, it almost becomes part of your identity, and because it's how everyone else is perceiving you, and at that age, that's all you've got. You don't have a real sense of yourself, so you're relying on everybody else around you to tell you who you are. So that is who I identified with. I knew I was the girl with the perfect skin that never got a pimple during my teenage years, which was lovely, but what was going on on the outside didn't necessarily reflect what was going on on the inside. I struggled with hormone dysregulation, which turned out to be endometriosis. So lots of painful periods, quite debilitating to the point where I missed a lot of school. And of course, back then, what do? You go to the GP with your mum and they say, right, we need to regulate your hormones, so let's pop you on the pill. That'll fix everything. And that's what we did. So at 14, I went on the pill to regulate my hormones. We now know it doesn't regulate your hormones. It shuts down your hormones and provides you with an exogenous source of hormones that are kind of like your hormones, but not really like your hormones. So that in itself caused more hormonal issues. And then by the time I got to about 18 or 19, I had the worst cystic, inflamed, pustular, nodular acne, and it was all here. So suddenly I've gone from having perfect skin, or what the world perceived to be perfect skin, to the most horrendous skin. So who am I at 18 if I don't have perfect skin? Now the world is perceiving me very differently. And there was a lot of people that either lacked compassion or empathy or a filter a lot of the time, and would just outright tell me what was going on with my skin or ask me. So, and that's quite confronting when you're obviously aware of what is going on your own face. It's not like it just magically appeared that moment that stranger decides to tell you about it. So that was a lot to deal with, and I think my self-worth and my sense of self, my identity, it was all torn apart because suddenly you've got to second guess everything that you do. You've got to wear makeup. You have to think about, if I'm in a relationship with somebody and, it gets to the point where it's becoming intimate, well, what's it going to look like in the morning if I can't get out of bed and go and shower and put my makeup on before he wakes up? Like, there's just, what's it going to do for my ability to get a job? What's it going to do? It becomes obsessive. It becomes completely just soul destroying, really, really soul destroying. You'll have I remember having moments of, whatever I was doing, I'd be in flow, I'd be quite happy, and then I would catch a glimpse of myself either in the mirror or walking past a shop window, and it was like a jolt back down to, oh, you might feel that way, but that's not how you look. You look inflamed, you look sore, you look pustular, you look awful. So I tried everything, Jules. I tried doctors, I tried dermatologists, I tried every cream, remember the Proactive? If listeners are old enough to remember the Proactive ads, I bought into all that, and because I was you're trying to strip everything away. So everything that you perceive you are, you're trying to strip away. Instead of trying to heal, the world around you says you've got to cut it out, burn it off, chemical peel it off. So it's a really misunderstood condition, whether it's acne or some other skin condition, because skin conditions are generally an internal issue, the skin is the site of response of something going on deeper in your body. So eventually I ended up with seeing a naturopathic skin specialist who sat with me for like an hour and asked me questions that had never been asked about my health before. And it blew my mind. I walked out and I thought, oh my God, someone listened. Someone cared enough to really try and understand who I was, what my health status was, and wanted to help. Because everyone that I'd been to before was just a quick fix. It was just like, here, have this cream, have this medication, have this antibiotic. And for the first time, somebody actually listened. And that was life-changing. That was seriously life-changing. We did some testing, and I was on quite high doses of a lot of nutrients and herbs for probably 12 to 18 months before it cleared. And at that point, I was like, people have to know this. Like, the world should know about this. Like, why isn't this the go-to? Why is this something that's kind of hidden away and not talked about? And the reason is it's hard work. And we are used to being able to go to the doctor, tell them our problem in 2 or 3 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes, and walk out with a script, and that's it. There's no self-responsibility. There's no education. It's just, here's one drug for one problem. But skin conditions are not they don't just happen for one reason. It's multifactorial, and you have to understand all the different confounding factors that go into why your skin is the way it is. So I was so fascinated with it that I couldn't stop researching myself. And then we were in a position where I could go back to uni. So that's what I did. I went back to uni and did a bachelor's degree in health science, majoring in naturopathic medicine. And then I went on to further study corneotherapy, which is corneotherapy's, no one knows what it is. They think it's the cornea of the eye, but no, it's refers to the corneocyte in the skin. And so corneotherapy is the repair, restoration, and the maintenance of the skin barrier. So that's what I went to learn on top of the naturopathic degree. So now I can treat my beautiful patients both internally and externally with their skin.
What did you say they were? Repair, restoration,
and maintenance. Yeah.
What does that journey mean? What does that look like? What does it mean to repair? Then what does it mean to restore? And what does it mean to maintain?
So if you think of the skin barrier a bit like roof tiles, so if you've got a house with some tiles missing, all the outside elements are able to penetrate into the house, and you would get, a flood in your house, you would have debris in your house. So if you think of the skin cells like that, and when we've been using inappropriate skincare products or makeup, when we've been exfoliating, because we've got to get that top layer of the skin off so that the regeneration can happen. When you've been using those sorts of products, you've got that skin barrier disorder, and then you've got inflammation. So what we want to do is we analyse the skin. So when people come and see me with a skin disorder, we spend a good amount of time questioning their whole health history, and then I get them up on the table and I analyse their skin looking for signs of skin barrier disorder. So wherever you see inflamed skin, there is skin barrier disorder. So for us, it's about repairing that skin barrier, and that will take, you need internal and external help with that. So internally, you need all the right nutrients. You need your zinc, you need your vitamin A, vitamin C, all that kind of stuff to make collagen and elastin. But you also need essential fatty acids to make the right types of oils. So as the oil moves up through the hair follicle onto the skin, you can kind of think of that like a glass of water, and if you poured olive oil on top, that olive oil sits there protecting the water so that it doesn't evaporate too quickly. So the quality of the oil in the skin is really important. And if you're eating a diet full of pizza and Macca's and no real good essential fatty acids, the quality of that oil is going to be impaired. So that layer on the skin that's naturally produced by the body isn't there to protect it. So you've got whatever elements are hitting the skin, whether it's makeup or skincare or pollution or whatever, it's not able to bounce off. It's being absorbed into the body, and then the body goes, hang on, there's foreign bodies here, we need to send in the troops, and then you've got inflammation. So restoring it with topical application of corneotherapeutic skincare, which is skin mimicking. So the ratios of all the things that make up our skin and the good fats in our skin, that skincare should be made up of the same thing. So you're kind of providing the skin with a skin identical creams or serums while it's repairing itself. And then we just use the same things to maintain the skin's barrier.
That was so interesting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least it was to me. Hello, Bridget. We said that you'd be joining us.
Average.
Hi, thanks for letting me hop in halfway into the conversation. I found what I caught fascinating, because I have a big skin story from my teen years, and I just wish that my mother took me to somebody like you.
Yeah.
So I actually think that would be super interesting if you're both open to it, because that wasn't my experience in my teenage years. So I was one of those lucky kids. I had some pimples, but it was like not really a big deal. But I often looked at the kids for whom, particularly those really cystic, red, angry, painful looking ones.
Yeah, that was me.
To break and ache for them, because I thought that would, one, be so painful. Like, that's walking around with something really painful all of the time. And I think chronic pain is psychologically really hard to deal with. And then you add on top of that this skin, which I often think, actually, Sallie, I mean, you and I both know as naturopaths that skin is the largest organ in the body, but rarely do we think of the skin as an organ.
Mm. Yeah.
Agree with that?
Yeah, the skin is generally the last organ to receive the nutrients it needs, because there's more essential organs in the body that require you to live. You don't need good skin to be alive. So the body will triage the nutrients that you are having, and your skin gets whatever's left over.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So that then, I don't know if you said this at the beginning, but that then says that the skin really is a window into someone's health, because the skin, if the skin's suffering, does that mean that everything's, all the energy's going elsewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's generally always an emotional and a physiological component to a skin condition. So when you're talking about acne or psoriasis or eczema, or perioral dermatitis, you can always pick, not always, you can generally sometimes pick what's going on for them underneath it all. So we know that where it presents will be linked to a particular organ. So when it's along the jawline and on the chin, it will be hormonal. When it's on the cheeks, it's generally to do with the stomach. When it's up on the forehead, it's to do with stress. So you can kind of ask questions based on where it's presenting and also how it's presenting. So, and it gives me goosebumps sometimes, because when someone comes and sees me and say they've got really severe eczema on a particular part of their body, I always wonder what the metaphysical meaning of that is. And then when you can ask really gentle questions around that, I have literally seen eczema that's been there for years, and within a few days of me being able to gently ask questions about what's going on a deeper emotional level, and it's brought out into the open, it will literally disappear. So I don't actually have to do anything sometimes.
So you've brought their awareness to it, and even their awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it, you know, if you're talking chakras, like when I see people with eczema, say in the groin area, there's a lot of shame or fear, where it's quite amazing how just becoming aware of an emotional component to a skin condition can actually just clear it up.
But I mean, that would be revelationary for some people. Like, you know, you're talking here about, you know, the hormonal aspect of skin. And that was my story, it was all my chin, which is, and that was always the answer. Oh, it's just hormonal. Yeah. But that was where the conversation ended. It was then like, well, what, you know, what drug can I put you on? And then my mum used to take me to see this lady who was great. She was kind of like a dermatologist, but again, it was just the focusing on the skin itself and what was going to work with the skin. There was nothing deeper around what might be manifesting that. It was just kind of, oh, well, you know, it's teenage kind of skin, and this is problem skin, without any the whole thing, if you consider it being hormonal and often being like angry skin, is almost like an, you know, self-hatred or anger, like repressed anger, right? And what happens is, unless it's acknowledged and given somewhere to go, or even as a teenager, if I knew what to do with that, it's self-perpetuating, because you've then got this face that you're presenting to the world, which still keeps you in that space of feeling ugly, or hating yourself, or feeling stuck or exposed, or, you know, whatever the connotations are for that emotionally. So you just end up in this cycle. I mean, I think for me, the only thing that helped it clear up was going on the pill. But, you know, we all know the problem. That's just a whole other set of challenges that we know that has with it. So I just love the conversation around looking at this with a wider lens, and that whether it's women listening for themselves, or women who might remember this conversation when their children are older, and see another pathway to explore. I just think it's such a rich discussion to be having.
Exactly, and I think it's just really important to remember that there will always be, like I said before, there's never just one reason. And teenagers and acne is what I see a lot. And that, yes, there is a biological, physiological reason why that's happening. We know that androgens increase during teenage years, and androgens is the one hormone that's kind of like the master hormone of sebum production, so the oil production in the skin. So that there is going to be that kind of up and down until, you know, the teenagers kind of find their hormone rhythm. But we've also got to acknowledge the emotional impact that has, because we know that people with acne, and particularly teenagers, have higher rates of suicidal ideation. They have higher rates of mood disorders. They're less likely to engage in school. They're less likely to engage with friends. They're less likely to experience sexual and intimate relationships. They're less likely to get the job compared to somebody who doesn't have acne but with the same experience and qualification. The quality of life for some people who are affected with skin conditions is phenomenal, and it's something that we need to, you know, open up discussion about, because so many people are affected by it.
Yeah, well said. I was just wondering, when you're talking about the metaphysical or emotional or psychological underpinnings of a skin condition, what would be 2 or 3 questions that our listeners could reflect or ponder on or ask themselves that might lead them on a pathway of a little bit of insight for themselves?
Yeah, so maybe so whenever you see red in skin, that's anger. So where are you suppressing the anger? Because it's coming out your skin. So there's something going on that you're not able to, there's no safety in releasing that anger, or you don't know how. So is there someone you can talk to about, what might be going on for you there? And maybe I often find when people have got the pustular acne, they're like eruptions. So are you wanting to erupt somehow and not able to? It's getting stuck. You're not able to actually either verbalize it or get it out, move it out of your body in a healthy way. And we've got to remember with skin, there's only two ways. So if you've got years of gunk sitting in there, it's only going to come out the skin or be absorbed back into the lymphatic system for it to be processed and eliminated. So if you don't have good elimination channels, so you might want to look at, are you constipated? Because that will tell you you're not eliminating them properly. Okay, if you're constipated, what are you hanging on to? I look at constipation and diarrhea as constipation people will hang on to something for dear life. Diarrhea people they let everything go. So where are you not able to erupt safely?
Can I ask you, earlier you said when people use inappropriate skincare products, what does that mean to have an inappropriate skincare product?
So look, some people are really lucky and never have to worry about it, and they can buy anything off the shelf and they don't react to it. But for a lot of people, that is not the case. So if you've got disordered skin barriers, so you've got those leaky, those tiles that are missing off the roof, like I was explaining before, and you go and put something with perfume, because we all love a bit of skincare, and you open the lid up and it smells beautiful. Well, that just means there's perfumes in there, and they can be really, really irritating. So you go and put that on the skin, and then it gets irritated, and then you put something else over the top to kind of calm that down. So it's about, that is why I'm trying to encourage everyone that I come across is to use cornea therapeutic skincare, because it's skin mimicking, it's medical grade, it's customizable to your skin. So if you look at the amount of ingredients on your foundation or your acne cream or your eczema cream, it's quite astonishing. Like, even I've got access to like a database that tells me because some of the ingredients you've never heard of, and you've got to go and look it up. Some of them are plastic. Some of these foundations that are supposed to cover everything up actually include plastic in them. Like, you can't put that on your skin and expect it to be healthy. Like, you wouldn't eat it, so why are we putting it on the skin?
I love that reflection. If you wouldn't eat it, why is it on your skin? Yeah.
Have you touched on that, on how much the skin absorbs? Because that, when I learned about that, that was pretty astonishing, was just how porous, everything that we put on our skin, because I think back to as a child, like my dad used to clean our hands with like mineral terps, and like you just don't really think of it, but in fact that's all being absorbed into your bloodstream.
Yeah, straight into the bloodstream, and depending on what it is, it can be up to 80% of it going into your bloodstream, causing another inflammatory reaction. It's not supposed to be in your body, so your body will send out the troops to try and get rid of it somehow.
Gosh, that's kind of scary, up to 80%. Crazy. You also mentioned before that over-exfoliation can create breaks in the skin barrier. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm guilty of that. I am like, oh, I need to exfoliate. I need to strip skin layers continuously to maintain my youthful skin. And I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, everyone loves an exfoliation, don't they? So And that goes back to corneotherapeutic principles, is that we want to maintain that barrier, not strip it away. So we do use exfoliation in corneotherapy, but we use very gentle and sometimes, so you've got two types. You've got the physical exfoliation. So I remember using, what was that product? It had like apricot kernels or something in it, and you'd just slap it on and it'd be all over you, and you'd be red raw by the time you got out of the shower, and you'd be like, oh, this is great, I'm going to be glowing. But what you've just done is you've just stripped away all the natural oils that are there to protect. You've stripped away all the, like, we've got a skin microbiome we've got that we need to take care of, that's trying to protect us, and then we just go and strip it all away. So what we actually use is a really gentle enzymatic exfoliation. So it's enzymes from pineapple and papaya and some clay, and we use it wet. So enzymes that help to desquamate or have the shedding of that the cells on that top layer, which is a natural process, obviously. But in order to help that in a healthful way, we use enzymes to help break those bonds that are kind of holding the cells together. So it's really gentle, it's anti-inflammatory, and you're not just stripping everything away as you do it.
So what's an appropriate amount? Because this is literally like one of my main focuses. I will use the acid peels, fruit acid peels. I'm mad for those exfoliators, clay masks, and then I can like rub off. What is too much?
Too much would be is if you're
asking, it's too much.
Yeah, pretty much. But look, you've got gorgeous skin, Jules. We know that. But it's not affecting your skin. So you've obviously got a really strong barrier.
Yeah, although I do
with that.
I do get that hormonal, the week before my period, I always get breakouts on my chin. So it's mostly that I really focus on, am I exfoliating my chin? Mm-hmm. And am I exfoliating to remove, because I'm also aging and getting those sort of darker skin. Mm-hmm. So I find that it helps with that. So one that I wanted to ask, so, I mean, please feel free to answer that question, and then I'm just going to hit you up with a couple more and then. So part of my question was around that hormonal skin thing. I'm still fascinated by that. So if we could have a conversation around that. And the last point is lymphatics for me. So if I have not tended to my lymphatic system, then I do get cystic, like literally right over my adrenal glands, just under your chin, lymphatic glands, just under my chin. I will literally get cystic eruptions there, which is so clear to me about whether, because when I tend to my lymphatic system, they never appear. And the second I stop attending, there they are. So feel free to start anywhere.
Oh my gosh, so hormones, that's complex. We know that there's a delicate dance with females and their hormones at different times of their cycle. When that's out of balance, so we need estrogen. We love estrogen. It helps with collagen production. It helps with plumping up the skin. We need progesterone too, but when you've got that spike at the end, like just before you start your bleed, you've got that spike in progesterone. So progesterone will encourage sebum or oil production. So you might just want to take a little bit more care during that time and doing the lymphatic. So because I perform facials as well as part of my services, and I always do lymphatic facial massage because we know, one, it helps with the parasympathetic nervous system, so calming the nervous system down. And we know that we need altered states of consciousness, so that deep sleep, the relaxation, the REM sleep, all that to help with healing, not just skin, but everything in our body. We need those states of consciousness. So between the lymphatic massage and being relaxed, then we can bring nutrients to the skin, and we can help with waste as we're doing a lymphatic drainage massage. So I guess, back to hormones. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. Hormones, there's different hormones during pregnancy. So you've got some women will break out, and for other women, it's the first time they've had glowing skin. So that will all depend on where their hormones were sitting before pregnancy and what their nutrient levels are during pregnancy. But we've got to remember the sun. Oh, my gosh, sun. We've got to look out for the sun. So pregnancy will stimulate melanin-stimulating hormone, and that's where sometimes you'll see women with
I got that really
patches.
Yeah, and with each pregnancy it got worse.
Yeah.
It happened quicker and got worse.
Yeah.
And took a really long time to come back to what I thought was normal, like particularly fourth, probably 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yep. So that's that melanin stimulating hormone. And then when you go out in the sun without sun protection, you're stimulating the melanocyte to produce the melanin, and that's where you're getting that patchy brown spot. So sunscreen is number one for anti-aging, number one.
Can I ask that? Sorry, because especially in natural health, there's lots of focus on getting enough vitamin D and getting vitamin D from the sun, not synthetic vitamin D.
Yeah.
And especially in winter, in Melbourne, there's an argument that you actually want to leave your skin uncovered to get that vitamin D.
Yeah.
But here you're saying, you've really got to cover your skin.
Cover your face, get your body out.
Yeah.
Just cover your face with the sunscreen, because that's where it's going to affect you first. So go for it with safe sun exposure for the rest of your body, but for your face, you want to protect that. Yeah.
Can I just take you back to when you were talking about hormonals, and you had said, because I had said that last week before my bleed is where I would get hormones, and you'd spoken about progesterone increasing the sebum oil, which I loved because that wasn't something I knew. And you said, so you might just want to take care in that week, Jules. What would that mean?
So just whatever is your self-care practice. So because we've got to remember stress has an impact on our hormones. So if you're looking at hormones, why is it dysregulated? Then we need to look at stress. So stress can be the number one, and it has a big impact on your hormone levels. So looking at where you've let that go a little bit during that cycle leading up to it. It could be making sure that you're having lots of good healthy fats, so that the type of oil that sebaceous gland is producing is free flowing. So the minute you get if you don't have good essential fatty acid levels, the quality of that sebum that's being produced will become thick and viscous. So if you're trying to if you think of the hair follicle here, I know the listeners won't be able to see, but imagine your hair follicle, and then under the skin to the side of your hair follicle you've got a sebaceous gland producing this oil, and that is supposed to make its way up through this tiny narrow pathway up to the skin. So it needs to be free flowing in order for it to get up there. So if that's thick and viscous, it's going to get blocked, and it's not going to be able to move up the hair follicle, easily. So just watching the types of fats. So, cutting back on your fried foods and making sure you're taking, maybe you need to take an omega-3 supplement.
What, for our listeners' benefit, would be the fats that would encourage the best sebum oil?
Yeah, so your fatty fishes like your salmons and your sardines and your mackerel, avocados, raw nuts and seeds. You could try, your olive oils, but don't heat them. So use your cold pressed olive oil, but use it over your salads or over your veggies after you've cooked it, so you're not heating it.
Beautiful. Can I get you just to give us your spiel perhaps on anything that, no more than one on each. Let's go physical, emotional, or just physical and emotional impacts for cystic, pustular and blackheads.
Mm-hmm. So cystic acne, so you want a physical, like what can we do?
Emotional consideration for our listeners. Okay, here's 2 things for you to consider if you are experiencing cystic acne.
Mm-hmm.
Blackheads, I don't know if there's another word.
Yeah.
Pustular. Yeah.
So for all of them, what type of skincare and makeup are you using? What are the ingredients in it? Physically, what's your diet like? So we need, it's very rare that I would see someone with any type of acne, whether it was blackheads, pustular, cystic, that have adequate zinc levels or optimum zinc levels. So I would say get onto a quality zinc supplement. Emotionally, go and see someone like Jules or Bridget to help you work through or me to help you work through what is going on underneath, because that is just as important as the physical side of things.
What about for something like psoriasis or eczema? Is there a slightly different approach, or is it the same steps?
Psoriasis is generally, we're going to look at something autoimmune going on, but that is triggered with stress, triggered by stress. So what are you doing to alleviate or reduce or delegate some of that stress elsewhere so that your body can heal? And the autoimmune component to it, we always look at zinc, probiotics and vitamin D. We know that those 3 nutrients in particular will help with both eczema and psoriasis, because there's an uncontrolled immune response in both those conditions. So the body's unable to regulate itself. So we want to help the immune system modulate the immune system.
Thank you. I think that's super helpful. So I want to bring it back perhaps to how this conversation is just a bit relevant before we wrap up today to body love. So, I mean, Bridgie and Sallie, what have been your experiences? I mean, I know you missed it at the beginning, Bridgie, but Sallie gave us the most beautiful story and insight into what her struggle and sense of identity that felt stripped away or torn apart, the experience of, again, like we've spoken about in other body love podcasts, around people commenting on another person's body and the impact that has, particularly for a human who's trying to develop their sense of self. So I just wonder if we can just take the conversation to that kind of juicy area around the psycho-emotional aspects of skin as it relates to body love, and if there's any way that you both would like to take that conversation.
Yeah, I love that we're bringing this on, because with every podcast that we've done as part of this series, it's tapped us beautifully into our own stories and our guests' stories, knowing that our listeners are going to tap into them in the way that touches them too. And I mean, I think skin is such a big one, because, whether it's the color of your skin, whether it's how your skin looks or feels, whether it's the ways in which you judge yourself in your skin, like it's how you present yourself to the world. It's what we walk around in. And I mean, certainly looking back at my experiences, which were really, really challenging. I remember I used to work at like the checkouts on Safeway or Woolworths, and really conscious of how I looked, but you know, I would try to cover it with makeup. And one person who I'm sure thought that they were being helpful said to me, "Oh, you know, I had really bad skin when I was young too." And it was crushing because I was trying to hide it. You know, that was my most vulnerable place. And, you know, like I would have strangers comment on it, trying to be helpful, but actually as a teenager, you know, as a 15-year-old, it was just heartbreaking. And, you know, I think possibly for me contributed a lot to that void of needing to know more, right? Like not just accepting that this is just my reality and I have to just deal with this, but, you know, it's that more of that, but why is it like this? And how can I heal at a deeper level? And what's beyond this? Because I mean, at around the same age, I also got glasses, like for seeing things, like for short-sightedness. And I was really self-conscious because I realized how much people could see me, because I didn't think they could see me because I couldn't see other people because of how blurry my vision was.
Oh, I think we might have just lost her. Hopefully she'll come back. Talking about blurry vision and boom.
And it was on my own being seen, you know?
Yeah, we lost you for a minute there. We lost you at blurry vision. Boom, you cut out.
Oh, really? I was saying that, you know, at the time that I created the blurry vision, like in my physical body, was almost like at the same time I was going through not wanting to be seen. So I won't see the world because I don't want it to see me, right? Like almost like a defense mechanism. And I find that so interesting that, you know, those deeper levels of manifestation that we do to try to cope with life. And certainly at a time, I think, when we're young, and even, you know, even when you're pregnant and you have skin issues, and again, it's another identity crisis, right? It's just a new identity crisis at a new life stage. Again, you know, you're dealing with your body changing and it's not just yours anymore, and you're sharing with someone else and you're asking to expand in every way. And then you're also struggling with how you're presenting to the world and to yourself and who you knew yourself to be. I mean, I think it's really challenging, and I love that we have practitioners that can help heal that, but I also love the questions we can ask around, you know, what is this stretching me into, and what's it asking me to let go of, or transform how I view things too, or how I see myself.
When there's lots of, I really hear from both of you how awful that experience was for you of having other people comment on your skin. So as a parent, what would be the best way to approach those conversations with our children? Like, what did your 15-year-old self need to hear or want to hear or would be receptive to hearing?
My mum was really beautiful in that she did her very best, and I could see it pained her as well, like that she really struggled seeing me struggle so much. So I think that it helped. I felt seen by her. But I think if she had the capacity to see more deeply emotionally what might have been going on for me, that if she had been able to seek out some kind of healer that could help me tap into that, I would have loved that. I would have loved her to, I think, create more space for me to feel how I felt about it without trying to fix it with the next thing, even though she, you know, she really felt that that was what I wanted, was to fix it. But also I think the medicine for me would have also been in actually, how do you build yourself here? Yeah, so but of course, you know, I always think about, you know, the mother-child dynamic, and I certainly was replaying aspects of her own teenage wounding, but just in a different form. So she could be with me to the degree that she could be with her teenage self, and she did a monumental job, but possibly it would have required help holding me a little deeper in it for me to find my own deeper medicine. than the surface seeking of the next cream or the next drug or the next therapy, you know?
What do you think, Sally? Do you have any opinions on it?
Yeah, look, it just reminds me of, look, not everyone that comes to see me is willing to do the work that it takes. And I often see these just heartbreakingly wounded teenagers who are becoming a shell of themselves and not able to show up like they want to. And, you know, even when they're in my clinic room, their posture's forward, they can't look you in the eye because they're just so ashamed of how their skin looks. They don't want anyone to look at them. And there's absolutely no judgment here on it, but what I do see is the parents' frustration in that, like what you were saying, Bridge, they want the next magic pill and there is no magic pill, and I'm sitting there telling them that this is going to take work. We might have to do testing. This might take 12 to 18 months, and they're just not willing to do it. And sometimes they'll come and see me 2 or 3 times, and because I haven't fixed it in 3 weeks, they just move on to the next thing. And even through telling, you know, talking with the parents and sort of saying, you know, we need a team approach. We need to understand what's going on for them emotionally and physically, and maybe then it would be beneficial for them to be seeing a psychologist for some of them, because it's so deeply wounding for them that, you know, I don't have the time in that clinical space to help them through that. What they're there to see me for is to help them with nutrients, herbs and topicals, but I can delve a little bit into the emotional side of things in that, but they actually need a whole team of people. And if I can just say one thing to the parents is, do this for the long course. Don't think that there is a magic pill out there, and try drug after drug or skincare after skincare without actually doing the work and listening to the people who are trying to help, because that is what's going to get the teenagers some, what's the word? The teenagers that come and see me, they need some kind of hope other than here's a script. If they're allowed to take responsibility for what they put in their mouth and what their thoughts, their skincare, if they're allowed to take responsibility for it, then that is what's going to heal them. Because at the end of the day, we can have all the people around us, but if we're not willing to do the work ourselves, we're handing over responsibility to somebody else, and it doesn't work that way. So I would just say to the parents, just stay the course, get the right people behind you, and help them see how they can heal themselves.
Do you think many teenagers are willing to stay the course like that?
No, there's not a lot. I do see teenagers come and go quite quickly, but because I don't have a magic pill. And that's where I feel it's on the parents to really encourage them to stick with it. You know, we don't give these kids enough credit that they can do it. And the parents are often, like you were saying, Bridget, they're expressing something that the parents are repressing. And often it's confronting for the parents to watch what's going on for their child, because it means they have to look at themselves, and sometimes they're just not ready.
I also wonder how much of the the skin eruptions or the anger in the teenage skin is not just the child's, but also representative of potentially the family dynamic.
Yeah,
and that could be really confronting for a parent to sit with.
Yeah,
whether they're conscious of it or not, right?
Yeah. And it's funny when you have a teenager and a parent in the clinic room with you, and I always ask the child the questions, how many times the parent jumps in to answer for them. Because if they don't have, the child couldn't possibly know the answer, the child couldn't possibly get this right. Sometimes I do have to direct some of the questions to the parent, but I try to stay engaged with the child. But you can see who's going to be in this for the long haul based on whether the parent will jump in and try and control the answers.
What would be the major food considerations teens would need to consider?
Zinc. What do they eat? What I find is teenagers suddenly have a newfound financial freedom because they might have a part-time job, and suddenly they're going to school without breakfast being made in the morning. On the way to school, they'll grab an egg and cheese roll from the bakery, they'll get a chocolate milk, and then they won't eat all day because a lot of teenagers, particularly the girls, won't eat in front of anyone. That's a whole other thing. But and then they're getting home and they're eating, whatever's in the pantry, chips, chocolate, 2-minute noodles. So essentially they're having one meal a day. So biggest consideration, particularly for acne, is that they need to eat protein, they need to eat zinc, and they need to eat regularly. So no fasting. This whole intermittent fasting thing can work for a lot of people, but not when you've got acne and not when you're a teenager.
Why is that?
You need to, they're still growing, and we need to stabilise their blood sugars. So when you've got hormonal dysregulation already, which is contributing to sebum production, and then you add in this spikes and drops of insulin, the spikes in the insulin are going to drive sebum production more, and then you're going to crash, and then you go for the sugary foods to bring you back up, and it's just this cycle.
Thank you. It's been really deeply helpful. Before we wrap up today and we ask you our quickfire questions, is there anything that feels left unsaid for you or that you would like to share with our listeners on the topic of body love and loving your imperfect skin?
Oh, look, find your tribe to help you through your skin journey. There are people out there that are in it for the right reason. You will get through it, and it doesn't define you. You are not your skin. It doesn't define you.
That's so important to hear. I think when you're in like that phase of it feeling all-consuming.
Totally. So, Sallie, what we do whenever we have a podcast guest on is ask them 3 quickfire questions. I'll ask the first question and then Bridgie will ask the second 2. The first one is we ask you to contemplate a time in your life that you feel willing and open to share where you have experienced some sort of wound. It could be the one we've discussed today, and you have gone through a process of transforming that into wisdom. So I wonder if there's a time in your life that you would like to share around this was the wound, this is what I learned during this process, and here's the wisdom that I can share with you based on my experience.
I guess a lot of it we've talked about today, but that's probably the biggest thing is the skin and overall health. I was, for the first probably 25, 30 years of my life, I was just always sick, and I never gave up asking why. I remember going to the GP in tears because I was just continually sick with everything, coughs, colds, asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia. At one point, over 18 months, I had pneumonia 6 times. And no one was just saying, hang on a minute, something's not right here. It was just, oh, well. And I just never stopped asking why. I never, I turned around into going back to uni and learning how to heal myself and learning how to heal others.
What a gift. We'd love to know the books that you feel everyone should read in their lifetime. What's been really influential to you?
I absolutely love and always recommend The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein.
Mm-hmm.
I think for people kind of on the cusp of, whatever you want to call it, spiritual awakening, woo-woo, whatever it is, I think her book has a really simple and poignant approach to understanding that everything happens for us rather than to us. And if you're willing to look for the learnings, they are there. The other book is Flowers and Honey by Jules, because I watched I was
like, beautiful. Second recommendation of that on the podcast. Look out.
Oh, well, it's just
thank you, because that actually feels really deeply profound to me. There's like that whole year I'm writing that book, almost sideswipe left. You know what it's like? You go, that was really intense, and now it's done, and life is busy, and you just keep going. And I forget what I did and where it lands in the world. So I also really
wrote a freaking book, woman. You wrote a freaking book. And I watched it happen, and it was so beautiful to be a part of it, and going to the launch and helping you celebrate. That was beautiful. But I think that one too, that one's obviously more around the relationship you have with yourself and intimate relationships. That's been life-changing too.
Beautiful. And if you could have a billboard anywhere on a superhighway, what would it say?
It would say, through love, all pain will be transformed into medicine.
Oh
my God. I am like copying that down. That is good.
Wow. What a beautiful way to capture. Didn't say it again. Through love, all pain will be transformed into medicine.
Yeah.
That's heaven. What a gift. So beautiful, Sallie. How do our listeners connect with you? Where do they find you and your services?
Yeah, sure.
At the moment.
So I practice out of Balanced Complementary Medicine in Hyatt in Bayside, Melbourne. If you are outside of Melbourne and you still want to see me, I can still treat skin over Zoom. We do it just slightly differently. So that you can contact me at sallieroberts.com.au, and it's Sallie with an IE, just to be painful. On Instagram, it's naturopath_Sal.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really amazing. Oh, golly gosh. I have just loved this conversation. Bridgie, has it been a bit of medicine for your inner teenager?
Yeah, it really has been medicine. My inner teenager feels really heard, and also really grateful that you're doing this work in the world. And it just, even that quote that you wrapped up with the billboard, I just thought, like, that is this story, right? Like, how can I love this and it be medicine?
Yeah.
Like,
thank you.
It's beautiful.
So Sallie is coming into Soul Driver Motherhood to run an extended and deeper conversation with us. So that is happening on the 10th of June. So if you are in Soul Driven Motherhood, you can look forward to that, and please feel free to put forward any questions that we can certainly send on to Sallie. And if you're not in Soul Driven Motherhood, then get on in there. It's only $39 for the entire month, and you can find out more at nourishingthemother.com.au, Nourishing the Mother on Facebook and Instagram. And to connect with you, Bridge,
it's bridgetwood.life. And you, Jules?
It's julietenner.love.
Remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey. I nearly had a spaz out then. All right, big love to you. We will see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
And if you're ready to ask, in what ways can I show up more fully, live more meaningfully, parent more wholly, and love more unconditionally? How can I mine the wisdom from the experiences of my life and expand into those challenges? Then you're a soul-driven, heart-led mama who's ready for conversations and a community that supports her journey. Come join Soul Driven Motherhood. We'd love to have you.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.